If you've got a voice, then pull up a seat. Real talk drops with every beat. No echo chamber, no disguise. Welcome to the Dead Mike Society.
This is John.
This is Dan.
Welcome to Dead Mike Society.
So what is going on?
So I saw a couple of videos about Anthony Fauci, and he was being grilled by the Senate, and basically he took the fifth like 100 times. And I'm not being like hyperbolic. I literally mean he took it 100 times. Like they were asking him about his tie. They were asking him what the color of the floor was. They were asking him about his financial dealings under the administration. What did you think about that?
I mean, I think he's guilty. I mean, he already got the pardon, so he can't be a criminal in regards to going to prison. But he could also just be honest and let us know that it kind of was a money grab for him, that he turned into a celebrity, that he was all basically thinking about himself and not really thinking about the American people. I mean, why would you not explain what happened and the wrongdoing and at least like man up to it? I mean, he used federal employees the wrong way. That's a fact. And he made money while people were dying. And that's a fact. So, I mean, I think Fauci should take all the money he has and hire security, because I think the American people might want blood.
So do you think that making money and helping people are like antithetical? In other words, like, did he help and make money, or did he make money and not help people?
It just seems like he made money doing illegal activities. Like, you're not allowed to have contests with federal employees. You're not allowed to do these things explicitly with federal monies. So yeah, he can make money. He had a salary. He has a pension. I think he makes over $600,000 a year in his pension. And sure, they were paying him $1 million a month. Okay, so that's fine. That's what he was getting during the pandemic. He was the United States doctor, you know? And I'm fine with him getting that money, but it was getting more money, doing things underhandedly. That's where it became illegal activities. You can't use the federal government to do whatever you want to basically promote yourself. That's what he was doing. I mean, he was on like the cover of magazines. I mean, he was taking it to a whole nother level. He wasn't just going like, all right, I'm the doctor. Let me try to give you the best possible cure that's out there or opinion. You know, and at some point he may have been a good person and he may have done that, but he allowed all of the excitement and publicity and money to change him. And that's where the American people are angry at him.
Now, do you think he's guilty because he took the fifth? Because, like, my understanding of the fifth, and by the way, we're talking about the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. So my understanding is that it protects you, but it doesn't necessarily imply guilt. So, like, when I was watching the videos, like, I did not know whether he was complicit or not. I mean, he definitely looked guilty, but that doesn't necessarily mean he is guilty.
Well, I mean, just because he took the fifth doesn't mean he's guilty. He's following what his attorney told him to do. But because he had a pardon, I think it changes your right to have the fifth. I mean, I know he was allowed to take it, but in my opinion, once you get a pardon, you've already waived your rights. It's done. Like, you're already pardoned from it. You're already excused from it. So now you're above your rights. Like, now you can't be tried. What I'm saying is you can't go to jail. We can't, put you on death row. Nothing can happen to you. So why not just man up and answer the questions? Nothing can happen to you. You're like a superhero.
Well, he could be like jailed for contempt, right? Like if he lied, for example, like you know, they say, what's the color of your tie? He goes, it's red. And then they go, okay, so he's starting to answer. So now they ask him, did you make money illegally under the administration? And then he goes, well, I plead the fifth on that one. You know, like I think, right? Is that?
I don't think so. I don't think that for this hearing, anything he says cannot put him in jail. I'm pretty sure that he had 100% pardon. So this was just answering questions, regardless of guilt or innocence. It's kind of like what happened to the Houston Astros when they cheated the LA Dodgers in the World Series. It was like the MLB gave them immunity. So just tell us what happened, tell us how you cheated. We will not strip away your title, and you will not be punished. And they did. They said, yeah, we cheated. And they explained it. And then MLB said, all right, this is what happened. Sorry, next season. So I'm saying he has like pretty much immunity.
And this is the trash can banging.
Oh, for the Houston? Yeah, that was the trash can banging. And they had, I guess there was some microphones too, like, in their uniforms.
Wow. Okay, so school is going to be starting soon for a lot of college students. They're going to be starting rush for fraternities and sororities. So my son is going to be going to college. He's going to be joining a fraternity, and I don't have any experience with fraternities and sororities. But like, is that like an outdated system, or is that like a social group that you can still belong to? Like, I'm not sure what value that brings. My other son was a member. Actually, my daughter was. So actually, all my children were members of fraternities and sororities. I think they had like a good experience with it, but I don't know. Like, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's a part of college life. There's going to be that, it's kind of like a club, basically. So you join the club, so you have some friends when you get there because you have your housemates. So I think it kind of breaks the ice a little bit better for a freshman coming in, or even if you're transferring as a junior. But I'm not sure if if you have to do rush and you have to pledge and you have to go through all the tests, I'm not sure if that always is in the best interest, because some of these programs historically have made students do crazy things. I mean, I think of the movie Old School. They were trying to pledge and they were having them do unbelievable tasks.
Right, or like Animal House.
Right. So the question is, has any of your children had to, what is that called? What do they put you through?
I think it is rush. I'm not sure. So I don't know. So to answer your question, I don't know like what the official name is. I think it's like, it has to do with like the rush. But my oldest son was telling me that he did have to go through trials. Like, they don't do, drink 20 beers and, beat you with a stick. Like they don't do that anymore, or at least not in the colleges that my children went to. But he did say that they would like walk for like miles and miles and miles, and just kind of, and what he got out of it was he experienced this idea that he could accomplish anything, that it was a very like team building exercise, and that he learned his limitations and how to push past them.
Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, it sounds like your kids embraced the experience. And even though some of it was hard, walking a bunch of miles seems hard, but it's that dedication that I think they really want. And I think it also carries over to your studies. So they have you do these tasks that are difficult, but then they want you to also do well in your classes. But then some of them, they do go too far. I mean, you've had these stories where it's like they starve them, or they strip them naked and make them, run through the quad and all these other things. And I know there's a name for it. There's a thing that they make them do. It's on the tip of my tongue. It's something. So I know in the comments when you guys watch this, what happens when you get into the fraternity and they're challenging you? What's the name of that? I know there's a specific name for it. It's like something. Anyway.
All right. So today's Thursday. If you're watching this today when we drop it. And we thought we'd keep it a little light today. We're going to be heading into the weekend. So I have a post about key traits of maturity of self-actualizing individuals. So what that means is, if you are working with like security issues, like you don't have a house, you don't have food, like you're not necessarily going to be at the self-actualizing level. Or if you're having challenges with the relationships, you're not going to be at the self-actualizing level. But what this is like a list of qualities that individuals who have achieved like security and relationships and things like that of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. And so I just wanted to get your take on it, and I wanted us to discuss some of these issues, see if we have them, see if we don't. And viewers, if you have any of these or if any of these are interesting to you, please leave a comment down below. Okay. So the first one is self-awareness. So understands self deeply, recognizes strengths and weaknesses, learns from experience. Is that something that is kind of commonplace in humanity at this point in time, or not?
Well, let's start from the beginning. So the first one is, say it again.
The first one is self-awareness.
Okay, so self-awareness is kind of understanding your character, right? Understanding
Yes.
who you are. So I would say that 9 out of 10 people probably at midlife have established a character and they've made the decisions on how they're going to interact in society. So I would say most people have established a character by midlife, but in the early teenage years, they're going back and forth. Like one day they might be a punk rocker and the next day they're a rapper. And you're going through these different characters trying to figure out who you are and what you're about. So you're having a constant kind of moral dilemma. But I think as you get older, that dilemma shifts.
Now, is this something that young people can strive for to achieve in their time, or is this something that comes with like a lot of experience, like you're saying, like midlife, late life? Is this something that like young people can develop?
I think they can develop it. I mean, everyone has a brain, and it just really is about developing it and understanding who you are and not being so caught up on what's trendy. Because I think that's what the issue is a lot of younger people want to be kind of like copycats. So if there's someone doing something like whatever it is, a challenge, right? TikTok challenge, then a bunch of people are like, oh, I'm going to do the challenge too. Like they want to just follow the leader, but they're not developing that self-character yet. You know what I mean?
So I have read that teenagers and young adults, their peer group is the most important influence on their life. So it's kind of like what you're saying is that like they're trying to like fit in to society and figure out their way. I think that's maybe how humans evolved. I'm not sure like what the mechanism behind it is, but like I definitely noticed that with my kids, their peer group, like the people around them. And I think that's probably why you end up with what we talked about last episode, which is, people in troubled homes tend to have trouble in their lives until they kind of wake up from that. There's sort of like a culture that shapes you, right? Like when you're younger. Was that your experience?
Absolutely. I mean, when you're growing up, you can't count on your parents because at a certain point you push against them. So like you have your parents, and in the beginning you need them so much, and as you get older, you're like, I don't need you anymore. I'm independent. I can walk for myself. I can put on my own shirt. Kids start to get this little attitude that they don't need anything. So then they develop these friendships, and it empowers them. So then they go like, all right, this is my group now. And then that group kind of controls each other, where someone in that group kind of turns into the advice giver, like, we're going to do this, and everyone kind of follows that person. I think naturally. I mean, we are like that. I mean, even ancestral, like we would be in groups of humans. It wasn't just like one human randomly by themselves. It was like, nope, join the group.
Right, because I think that like when we lived on the savannah in the forests and digging for roots and hunting, like loners did not survive. So I think that the people who learned to live together in communities tended to pass on their genes, and that is kind of how it shaped humanity to be what it is. And would you say that that's the case today? Like, do you find that loners still need to be in groups, or do you think that with technology and with all the resources that we have, that that loners can kind of survive?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure, like long term, what it's like. But I would say when you still are living with family and stuff, you can be a loner. You can just kind of put on your headset and be in your room and stuff like that. Um, I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not really sure how loners over time completely develop, and I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Now, I will say, because something came to me while we were talking about this, is that I'm sure a lot of people who watch YouTube are probably maybe a little more introverted and maybe a little more alone. And I want to say that, like, this community is for you. Like, we want to build with all types of people. So if you're a social person, if you're a person who likes to be in your room alone watching the channel, like, we are here for you. So leave a comment, let us know what your status is, and we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely, and use it as whatever positive you can get out of it. Try to get out the positives, because that's really what John and I are about. Is we're trying to keep it positive. And like again with the last question, I didn't really have an answer for it, but it doesn't mean that there isn't like a success in there or something that's really positive. I didn't mean it in like a negative way. I just don't know long-term effects.
Yeah. Okay, so the next trait is emotional stability. So manages emotions effectively, stays calm under pressure, resilient in tough times. With all the news feeds and all the sources that we have to dig through, I think that like there's sort of a preying on people who are emotionally unstable, right? Like that, like, is that something that's fostered in people in 2026?
I mean, I do think that there's less of that emotional stability now than there was in previous generations and decades before us. I think right now we're at some of the highest level of medication and anxiety that the world has ever seen. I mean, I would say 5 out of 6 people that I meet have some sort of clinical disorder, even though it's mild, but they're on a daily a chemical to balance it. So I'm not sure, if they're able to kind of regulate their emotions and in a tough situation to like keep their cool. I mean, every video I watch of catastrophe somewhere, it just seems like everyone's gets lit up. You know, I'm not seeing like a bunch of Cape Crusaders or like, heroes. I know there are some. But I feel like in the past, even with the fire department, it used to be there was a flood. Fire department would come and they would take you out of the flood. Now, the way that the LA Fire Department is if you're in a situation where you're in a flood, they're not allowed to rescue you anymore. They just have to wait and then basically, try to bring the body out. Like they let you now drown. They don't pull you out if they're going to be risking their life. The policy has changed from what it used to be. It used to be, they would tie ropes around each other. They'd go into the water. They'd pull you out. Now they're not allowed to. So you literally drown. And then they retrieve your body.
So, okay, if we consider survivorship bias, okay, so in other words, like we tend to be biased towards things that survive, right? So in the past, people who had emotional disturbances probably didn't survive. Like a lot of them would commit suicide. And again, this is a trigger warning. Obviously, if you need help, 988. But like in the past, there wasn't as many resources, and maybe a lot of firemen who did go into rivers and lakes and issues like didn't survive. So now that we have so many people surviving and so many people thriving on these medications, on these new laws, maybe it's the fact that we're doing better as a society.
It could be that overall there's improvement. I just, when I think of, people risking their lives to save people and people having to make those decisions under pressure, I always think of like our police and our firefighters and stuff like that. And I just feel like the more scrutiny that they get, the more lawsuits that they get, that it's starting to turn into a situation where they might not want to help you like in the past. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a lot of animosity between like even the police and civilians now, because there are a lot of people who go out of their way to flash their constitutional right to even like videotape or to film in public areas or publicly accessible areas. And a lot of it ends up breaching like police security because the parking lot of the police station is a publicly accessible area unless it's behind a gate. So you have people who go down there with their camcorders and their cameras, and they're there all day getting license plate numbers, trying to put the camera inside the window, and the police come out and say, hey, you're not allowed to do this. This is private area. This is our civilian. These are our vehicles when we're not working. So it's a safety issue for us. And they're going, well, it's my constitutional protected activity. So, you know, what are you going to do about it? So I think there's starting to be this kind of even animosity with just the police and civilians in general, because that's taking off because a lot of these creators who do that, or, you know, content creators, they're making a fortune doing this.
Now that reminds me of the fight videos. You know, there's these videos and people will just be getting into fights and they're like beating each other and like everyone's like, ooh, whoa. And I think that maybe that happened obviously like in the past, but like now that we do have the internet and we have so much connectivity, that like people are sort of eating this up on a mass scale, right? Is that kind of related to what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's really, really popular, and every day you have another, you know, group of people who are the new, you know, and a part of it is good. Part of it is good because they are also, you know, showing the police that they are going out of the law. Like, they're not allowed to kick them out of the post office for filming, right? They're not allowed to do that. But on the other hand, they're kind of trolling because they're making people upset who are, you know, standing in line to send a letter, and now they've got a camera in their face. So, you know, I can understand both sides of it, but they are going like, well, I am allowed to do this, and you should, you know, still uphold my rights because you're law enforcement. You're not policy enforcement. You're not feelings police, you know? So there's a point of it where it was good, I think, but now it's turning into like multiple post offices, police stations, you know, fire stations, you know, even sometimes near jails and prisons where they'll stand under the utility lines because that's considered a public area, and they'll film the prison, and it drives the prison nuts because they're going like, are you going to fly a drone in here? Are you trying to break someone out? So then the people come out of the prison, the security, and ask, what are you guys doing? It says, oh, you know what? We're allowed to do it. We don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
You know.
So what I heard you say, one of the things I heard you say was about the feeling police. And so my experience being like a parent in a household of many people is that it is difficult to police feelings because, you know, we are emotional beings. Like humans have emotions, we feel things, but then there's also the greater, you know, security, there's the greater good, making sure that people have freedom. So it is a tricky balance, and that's just in my household. So as in a country with, you know, hundreds of millions of people, that is a very challenging thing to balance, you know? So I don't know, like, I mean, I definitely don't think that we should, you know, make feelings, you know, law, but at the same time, I think we should try to be good to each other, right?
I mean, I agree. I do think that in a perfect world, people being kind to each other would be better. It's just in the world we are today, it seems like we live in LA and you drive in LA. Are people going out of their way to let you in? Are people going out of their way to slow down? Not at all. I'm saying it's like, you know, hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get over, you know, try to put your signal on. And it's just how it is. When I lived in Northern California, for example, people would let you in. It was a whole different style of driving than Southern California. A lot more polite. Like you're in a fast lane, there's someone behind you, people pull over. In LA, you got to go around them. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
it's a whole different philosophy. So I would say we're in one of the worst parts of the country for courtesy.
So, okay, I'm going to tell you some magical thinking that I have. All right, Steph. So, and by the way, when I say that, I'm not knocking magical thinking. I'm just saying that like it's thinking that deals with like non-concrete, objective realities. Okay. So my magical thinking when I drive in Los Angeles is I go, if I let other people in, then when it's my turn, I'll be let in. And so I start to observe that, if I put my signal on, I tend to observe that I'm let in more often. So that's kind of like my approach to it. Again, it's definitely magical thinking, but it works for me, because like I believe that I'm actually being let in probably more than I actually am being let in.
Well, I mean, still, when you have experience driving, you do understand the flow of traffic and that when you're coming out of, let's say, a gas station, right? You understand that the next line of cars that come up to the red light, the person's going to let you in. I mean, there's common courtesy that is still there. They're not going to itch up every step and really block you, completely, especially in our area. But if you were down in like the Inglewood area and it was like 5 o'clock, maybe not. Maybe you would get kind of pushed out. I was near Manhattan Beach not too long ago driving, and it was like that. It was like there was a red light. I'm trying to come out of the gas station, and like this person's just trying to like not even let me in from the gas station to the main traffic. And I'm going like, really? Like that's going to ruin your day, me pulling out, in front of you? But it doesn't matter.
Yeah. All right. So the next one is personal responsibility. So takes ownership of actions, accepts consequences, and fulfills commitments. This is a hard one for me. It's very challenging to do this as an adult. It's something that needs to be done, taking personal responsibility. But I don't think that there's as much emphasis on this feature of maturity in like popular media, popular culture. In fact, I think people are probably more pushed towards selfish actions. Is that my like do I have like glasses on that can't see, or is that what you're noticing?
I think selfishness is a big part of our society, and it's fed into us pretty much from day one. I mean, it's there are people who do like to be more modest with it. So I'm not going to say every person, but to be able to get away from it. I don't think, especially in LA and Hollywood, I mean, we're in like kind of a bad area of the country to really, figure it out. Like if we were in Minnesota, for example, right?
Yeah.
I think people in Minnesota are maybe less selfish. And I don't have any experience in Minnesota, but the way I think of the area and the people who I do know from Minnesota, they seem to be more like giving and more modest. And I'm not saying they don't have probably a million selfish people there or a billion or whatever it is, right? I don't know the number. But maybe it's just where we are, where it's hard for us to take accountability and responsibility inside and not like want to blame someone else. I feel like that's kind of what also happens, where if someone does make a mistake, it's hard for them to say they're sorry. It's hard for them to reach out. It's usually like, well, that's kind of the way it is. Would that have anything to do with it?
Yeah. So like one time I was at work, and there was an issue. There was a car that was let in. I'd seen them before, and so I just kind of waved them through, and they ended up like speeding through the neighborhood. They're just driving recklessly, and so I got like 3 calls about it, and like it was really hard for me to actually say like, hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I mean, I did say that, but I had the like internal feeling of maybe I should cover this up. Like to protect my job, to protect my face, to save face,
Right.
So I do know what you're saying about, that wanting to not accept the blame, because it is difficult. But well, let me see this, right? So is it something that benefits us to accept blame? Like, does that make us a stronger person? Is that the payoff? Like, what's the reward for younger people watching to take personal responsibility? Like, it just seems like maybe sometimes it's just going to be a big headache.
Well, you also get to develop that character. We were talking about earlier. Like, the only way you'll really know who you are is if you can be comfortable with your choices, even if they hurt other people. So if you did make a mistake and you're able to go like, yeah, I did make a mistake, right? And acknowledge it, then that's going to make you a better person inside because you can own up to your mistakes. Not everyone can do that, and then that is a character flaw. To not take accountability for your actions, it's a big flaw. So if someone young now is doing that, when they get into midlife, imagine all of the problems they're going to have in their life because they can never take responsibility and own up to their mistakes, because we all make mistakes. I mean, part of the human nature is to fail. And where spirituality and that stuff comes in for some people is that is the mechanism you can use to pick yourself up. Some people need that like external energy source to go like, wait, I did wrong, but you know what? I believe in a higher being, higher entity. Oh, I can pick myself up because I'm human and I'm flawed. Now, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
And it's a little bit of a pivot, but I thought it'd be interesting. So I'm just going to read this to you really quick and then ask you a question.
Okay.
So you have the ability to erase one painful memory from a loved one's mind. Doing so would make them happier, but that painful experience also shaped who they are and taught them valuable lessons. This is the question, Jon. Is it ethical to remove someone's suffering if it changes their identity without their informed consent?
So I think it is unethical because, like, I'll give you an example, right? Like my wife has like the best memory of anyone I know. Like her ability to recall things is so intense. Like she recalls like details. She recalls big things. So if I were to change something about her memory, she would feel like, and we're assuming that she doesn't know, right?
Right, but that's the whole thing. She doesn't know.
Right.
And you would erase it from her mind.
Right.
And then that would change who she is.
Right. Yeah. So I think because of my experience with my wife and seeing like how important memory is to her, I think that it would be unethical to make that change on someone without their consent, because we've talked about free will on this show. I think that people do have freedom. They have the ability to make choices. And so by taking something away, it's like you're stealing from them. You're stealing this memory from them, and I think stealing is wrong. I don't think that like that's a correct thing to do, even if it's going to. It's sort of like a greater good situation. Like you're stealing, like you're like Robin Hood. You're like stealing from the poor, giving to the rich. I still think Robin Hood is wrong for stealing from the poor. So I think that like taking a memory from someone's mind, even especially if it's going to change their identity, because like I also think that who you are is the like result of all the experiences that came before,
But how about if it would remove also their suffering? Like a memory that they can't get out of their mind. Like I know a person who always thinks about her childhood, okay? And there's some events in her childhood that like she can't get past. I mean, even after 40 years, So if I could go into her mind, I would like take out those memories. I'd be like, you know what? I'm just going to take all these out of your head. Because maybe you can move forward now because you're not, held on to that that crutch, you know?
So, okay, so the analogy would be, would you do surgery on someone while they're asleep to take out a cancer without their informed consent? Because it would be the same thing. It's like, here's this cancer of the mind, a memory of childhood. Like, you're basically doing like a surgery on them. And so the question is, like, how much informed consent do we give to the physical body, and how much informed consent do we give to the mental body? And I think that the two are connected. I don't think that they're necessarily separate. So I think that if you had well, I'll answer for myself. I think if I had someone who had like, you know, like a really traumatic experience in their life, I would want to talk with them. I'm sure if they knew that I could erase that memory, they would allow me to do so, right? Like with the correct discussion. So that's where I'm coming from. But I think that it has to do with more like informed consent.
I mean, and I understand that, especially with a loved one. You know, you don't want to cross like a boundary with them and do something like you said, a surgery to them without their consent. So I understand that. It's just sometimes people are scared of surgeries, and you go like, well, if you don't do the surgery, you're not going to be with us anymore, you know? And so a part of you wants to be like, you're just going to do the surgery. Like, we're just going to do it. Like, we don't want your consent because you need the surgery. Like, we want you to live. So in that situation, what do? Like, I know you can't now in society the way we are now, but there was a time where you could do something.
Right, but like, okay, so to push back, right, like what about eugenics? Like there was a time when people who were retarded or mentally, whatever the word is, I'm sorry if that's offensive to someone. I'm not sure what the correct word is, but someone who had like an IQ of like 60, right?
Mentally challenged.
Mentally challenged, sorry, I apologize. So there was a time when they were basically like their reproductive organs were removed in order for them to not have children, because their children would most likely have the same illness, right? Or the Tuskegee Airmen, right? Like they were given syphilis to test these like systems without their consent, and so they ended up, you know, dying like very young and suffering. So these ideas in the past of medical treatments that were done without the knowledge of the people, it is a slippery slope, and I think that's kind of why the question's so interesting. Mm-hmm. But that's where I'm coming from. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think what you said is really good, and you're right. It is unethical to do a surgery on someone's mind or body. So I think I would agree with Jon and say that you need to get their consent, because for the majority of people, if you gave them that power, they probably would do evil with it. You know, I think that's what the problem is because we're looking at this question as like a question for, you know, humans in general, right?
Right.
So if you go like, well, you can do it if you really want to do it and you think you really need to do it, all of a sudden it's like, man, people are doing it for the pettiest things, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I did want to say earlier when we were talking about the like joining sororities and fraternities, it is called hazing.
Yes, thank you.
So
hazing.
That's what it is.
Okay, so I wanted to ask a book of questions question.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay. If you were on a jury, would you be willing to convict a person for something you didn't think should be considered a crime, but is a crime legally?
So could I be on a jury and convict someone for a crime that I don't believe is a crime, but technically it is a crime?
Right. Like, for example, let's say, I don't know if people have a jury for jaywalking, but like, let's say, okay, I'll give a concrete example. Let's say that someone murders a family member and it's because they were like a pedophile or they were like some kind of heinous crime that they did. And you're like, yeah, but I think that that's okay justice. Like, I'm not saying you do. I'm just giving an example of, like, I'm trying to make it more realistic.
Right.
So, like, you're like, hey, or someone molested them as a child,
Or like they stole some bread because they were hungry.
stole some bread because they're hungry, right? So, like
I got you.
The law says one thing, and you're on a jury. And, like, do you believe in the jury system, or would you like have a hung jury and have them just retry the trial because you just can't follow the law?
I would stick with my moral beliefs. So, like, if I felt that they did something, but it was a justified action, I wouldn't give a guilty. I would say not guilty for me, because people do things, and part of being a human is you have to be able to look past what is just on paper, because the prosecutor is going to make a great case against somebody, and then the defense is going to explain the scenario in which the manner in which it happened. From my perspective, I want to understand the thought process of the person who committed the alleged crime. And if the thought process that they used matches the thought process that I use, then for me, that's a not guilty. But if they use a thought process that is against the way I think, that is a guilty verdict. So not every situation is the same. So I'd have to know the details and understand behind it. Like, again, if they just stole the bread because they like to steal, then for me, that's guilty. It's like, you can't just steal bread because you want to steal. Like, I don't agree with that system. But if they stole the bread because they are starving, well, I kind of can understand that, because if I was starving, I may steal bread as well. And I would hope that people would have remorse and maybe charge me for the bread and not ruin my future by throwing me in jail for it. So that's what I mean, is understanding the dilemma.
Yeah.
You know?
I it's kind of hard because, like, on one hand, that's why they have a 12-person jury, so that you have like a cross section of your peers and people can make their own decisions. But I kind of view the law as sort of binding. I kind of have I lean more on the paper side, kind of like what you were saying. You were saying, like, maybe we need to make moral decisions. So I don't know, like, if the judge instructed a certain way of things being done, I might have to follow those instructions for the greater good of the justice system, because it's not a perfect system, right? Nothing that exists in life is perfect. There's always going to be outliers. There's always going to be exceptions. But, like, I think it's the best system that we have. And I've been on a jury, like, I think 3 times. And each time they've instructed us, look, however you feel personally, that's fine. We're not telling you to change how you feel, but we're asking you to follow what the law says. And so, I don't know. Does that make me, like, immature or mature, or, like, what does that make me?
Well, I think it makes you, like a good citizen in society, in regards to, you can be told what instructions to follow and you will follow them to a T. So that's what I would say the government wants. That's what the legal system wants. They want people where they tell you and you go, yes, sure. And then you put in your vote. I, on the other hand, like to think like Judge Dredd, right? I am the law, right? I decide.
Right.
So when I hear a story, I get to make a decision because you're asking for my vote, right? So I'm going to vote the way I want to vote. And I don't need to follow your law. Guess what? I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer, right? So I don't have to follow your law. You can show me all your law books. You can tell me what's happened a million times. At the end of the day, part of my job on the jury is to figure out what I think. And if everything looks like a guilty, maybe it's guilty. And if everything looks like a not guilty, maybe it's not guilty. But that's what's cool about being one of the voters on the jury, is you get to decide. And you get to take that power and use it. So if the defense can sway me, you got my vote. But if the prosecutor's case is so strong, maybe you're going up the river with a paddle. I mean,
Right.
So, I mean, you would hope I'm on your jury because at least with me, you have a chance. With Jon,
All right.
and this is our laid back episode.
Right. This is the third. Oh, right. So, so we want to say, have a great weekend.
Absolutely.
We'll see you on Monday. Do you have anything going on this weekend?
This weekend, I have stuff with my band. We actually just released an album. You can go to maxmaxmusic.com if you want to listen to the album. So we are working on some material and getting ready to play some shows in the next couple months.
All right. Well, we'll have to hear more about that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is Jon.
This is Dan.
This has been Dead Mike Society.
If you've got a voice, then pull up a seat. Real talk drops with every beat.